Whitefield's residence at Oxford was the great turning point in his life. For 2 or 3 years before he went to the university, his journal tells us that he had not been without religious convictions. But from the time of his entering Pembroke College, these convictions fast ripened into decided Christianity. He diligently attended all means of grace within his reach. He spent his leisure time in visiting the city prison, reading to the prisoners, and trying to do good. He became acquainted with the famous John Wesley and his brother Charles, and a little band of like-minded young men, including the well-known author of Theron and Aspasio, James Hervey. These were the devoted party to whom the name Methodists was first applied, on account of their strict method of living. At one time he seems to have greedily devoured such books as Thomas à Kempis and Castaneda's Spiritual Combat, and to have been in danger of becoming a semi-papist, an ascetic, or a mystic, and of placing the whole of religion in self-denial. He says in his journal, "I always chose the worst sort of food. I fasted twice a week. My apparel was mean. I thought it unbecoming a penitent to have his hair powdered. I wore woolen gloves, a patched gown, and dirty shoes. And although I was convinced that the kingdom of God did not consist in meat and drink, yet I resolutely persisted in these voluntary acts of self-denial, because I found in them great promotion of the spiritual life." Out of all this darkness he was gradually delivered, partly by the advice of 1 or 2 experienced Christians, and partly by reading such books as Scougel's Life of God in the Heart of Man, Law's Serious Call, Baxter's Call to the Unconverted, Allien's Alarm to Unconverted Sinners, and Matthew Henry's Commentary. "Above all," he says, "my mind being now more opened and enlarged, I began to read the Holy Scriptures upon my knees, laying aside all other books and praying over, if possible, every line and word. This proved meat indeed, and drink indeed to my soul. I daily received fresh life, light, and power from above. I got more true knowledge from reading the book of God in 1 month than I could ever have acquired from all the writings of men. Once taught to understand the glorious liberty of Christ's gospel, Whitefield never turned again to asceticism, legalism, mysticism, or strange view of Christian perfection. The experience received by bitter conflict was more valuable to him. The doctrines of free grace, once thoroughly grasped, took deep root in his heart, and became, as it were, bone of his bone and flesh of his flesh. Of all the little band of Oxford Methodists, none seem to have got hold so soon of clear views of Christ's gospel as he did, and none kept it so unwaveringly to the end. At the early age of 22, Whitefield was admitted to holy orders by Bishop Benson of Gloucester on Trinity Sunday, 1736. His ordination was not of his own seeking. The bishop heard of his character from Lady Llewellyn and others, sent for him, gave him 5 guineas to buy books, and offered to ordain him, though only 22 years old, whenever he wished. This unexpected offer came to him when he was full of scruples about his own fitness for the ministry. It cut the knot and brought him to the point of decision. I began to think, he says, that if I held out longer, I should fight against God. Whitefield's first sermon was preached in the very town where he was born, at the church of St. Mary le Crypt, Gloucester. His own description of it is the best account that can be given. Last Sunday in the afternoon, I preached my first sermon in the church of Mary le Crypt, where I was baptized and also first received the sacrament of the Lord's Supper. Curiosity, as you may easily guess, drew a large congregation together upon this occasion. The sight at first a little awed me, but I was comforted with a heartfelt sense of the divine presence, and soon found the unspeakable advantage of having been accustomed to public speaking when a boy at school, and of exhorting the prisoners and poor people at their private houses while at the university. By these means I was kept from being daunted overmuch. As I proceeded, I perceived the fire kindled, till at last, though so young and amidst a crowd of those who knew me in my childish days, I trust I was enabled to speak with some degree of gospel authority. Some few mocked, but most seemed, for the present, struck, and I have since heard that a complaint was made to the bishop that I drove 15 mad the first sermon. The worthy prelate wished that the madness might not be forgotten before next Sunday. Almost immediately after his ordination, Whitefield went to Oxford and took his degree as Bachelor of Arts. He then commenced his regular ministerial life by undertaking temporary duty at the Tower Chapel, London, for 2 months. While engaged there, he preached continually in many London churches, and, among others, in the parish churches of Islington, Bishopsgate, St. Dunstan's, St. Margaret's, Westminster, and Bow, Cheapside. From the very first, he obtained a degree of popularity such as no preacher before or since has probably ever reached. Whether on weekdays or Sundays, wherever he preached, the churches were crowded, and an immense sensation was produced. The plain truth is that a really eloquent extempore preacher, preaching the pure gospel with most uncommon gifts of voice and manner, was at that time an entire novelty in London. The congregations were taken by surprise and carried by storm. From London, he removed for 2 months to Dummer, a little rural parish in Hampshire near Basingstoke. This was a totally new sphere of action, and he seemed like a man buried alive among poor illiterate people. But he was soon reconciled to it, and thought afterwards that he reaped much profit by conversing with the poor. From Dummer he accepted an invitation which had been much pressed on him by the Wesleys to visit the colony of Georgia in North America and assist in the care of an orphan house which had been set up near Savannah for the children of colonists. After preaching for a few months in Gloucestershire, and especially at Bristol and Stonehouse, he sailed for America in the latter part of 1737 and continued there about a year. The affairs of this orphan house, it may be remarked, occupied much of his attention from this period of his life till he died. Though well meant, it seems to have been a design of very questionable wisdom, and certainly entailed on Whitefield a world of anxiety and responsibility to the end of his days.